Hey, welcome to Crypto Esoterica. This is a division of Crypto Casual, which is a little more crypto involved, about 80% crypto, and Crypto Esoterica is about 80% the esoteric. Esoteric basically is hidden secrets in plain sight. It's ancient knowledge of patterns and shapes and information, and if you're privy to it or you're aware of it, then you'll have insight to how things, societies, and financial systems flow, as well as your own spiritual consciousness. So for me, Bitcoin and the whole ecosystem is just a consciousness of 2.0, we'll call it for right now. We'll call it the second coming of information. And the esoteric, once you understand the esoteric or your own internal information, then you'll be able to understand the exo or the outside information and their patterns. And we don't chase their patterns, we just understand their patterns and put ourselves in the path of progress. So for me, Bitcoin is just consciousness. It's spirituality. It is the first formation from the new consciousness that all humans are experiencing right now. Over the last few years, we've all experienced these ups and downs, some more than others. But I don't look at any of that as negative. I look at it as a great reset. I know that word is also has negative connotations within certain societies about resetting the whole population, brain control, mind control, all that good stuff. But I don't look at it that way. I look at it that each and every person had an opportunity because they didn't have to go to work, the thing they complained about all the time, but now they were able to sit at home and contemplate who they are, what their purpose is here, and what their plan is, what their path is in this life. Why they even show up in this life. And so for me, this new consciousness allows you those answers, but it's up to you to deep dive and delve into those. So today I'm going to do a two-parter. The first part is just going to basically understand how information or how something that manifests, how did it manifest? How did Bitcoin manifest? How did your consciousness manifest? How does the tree manifest? We're going to look at the esoteric information about the energy behind that or the flow that flows to make something form. And then that'll only be a short explanation. And then eventually we'll get into the second part, which will then be, or second video, which will then be a more detailed version of how the words, the verbiage we use within the esoteric community is also a lot of the same words we have used in the esoteric community of creating or manifesting, or the law of attraction. You'll hear certain words or phrases like that. So hopefully that makes sense to you right now, and we'll get started. So basically, what is Crypto Esoterica? It's basically I'm just bringing knowledge to those who are hungry for it, and cosmic knowledge as well to those who are thirsty. Nothing's quenching their palates so much in basic financial situations because they're on the decline. They always prosper, and then eventually it gets debased, and then it gets hyperinflated, and then it collapses, and then a new system. Well, Bitcoin is the new system, and we're able to understand Bitcoin, or the consciousness of Bitcoin for me, which is just God 2.0. And it's a non-anthropomorphic, or it's not a icon, it's not a he or she, it's not gender related, it's a consciousness and energy. And so once you tap into this energy flow, you'll be able to hopefully understand what it is I'm saying. So with that being said, guys, let's get started. So I'm going to give you some simple words and simple terms of the esoteric language, which allows you to understand how to create something from nothing and end up having something formed from the unformed. All right. So the first place we'll go to is the pre-consciousness, before conscious was consciousness, before thingness was thingness. And so we're going to go into what I'm going to call that, T-H-A-T. Right? So when I say the word that, even throughout my conversation with these videos, stay deep listening to those key phrases and key words, because you'll understand, because the esoteric information is normally presented to you in plain sight. But if you're distracted by everyday poverty mentality, then you're not going to hear the words. So that is what we're going to call the pre-pan, panoptic, panacea. Pan means all, but the all has no name yet, but the all wanted to express itself. So it took what it was pressed, if you will, and then it expressed. You can call this the Big Bang Theory. You can call it God creating Earth, or whatever your mythology of nothing to something. So that, when it expressed itself or expanded, right, it expanded into another reality, and that reality is what we're going to call this reality. Now, not human this reality, we'll get to there, But you have that turned into this. So now when I'm saying the word this, it's taking the unformed, and now we're going to start taking the supernatural formation of energy. And to understand when it expresses it, when that it expresses further, it creates a field of energy. And we're just going to simply call this ions, right? Which is just electrons and atoms and all that. It's really a discharge or an excitation of energy. I know this can sound a little bit boring, but just stay with me here to the end. And once this ionic field, we'll call it, or this field, capital F, this field is just a pure, unadulterated energy, and it's waiting to be formed. But how do we form it? How do humans form it? How do we turn it into money? And so with that energy field, we have to move it. And the only way we can move it is by arcing it. Like any electricity, to move it, it needs to be arced. It has to have a source of power. And that source of power eventually is going to be you. You're the one who goes into this excited field, but you need to tell that field where to go and what to do. And yes, it's almost like saying, hey, this is, we're telling God what to do. But again, it's not an anthropomorphic religious God, right? So let me back up and just help you understand that we've gone from that to this. We've gone into the field, and then the field then gets to move. But with that field, we're also going to call that a stream. So when the ions are arced, it creates a stream, like a streaming video. Well, that streaming video then becomes movement, motivation, emotion, right? All those words, MOT, that we humans will call emotions or motivation, we're just moving ions, right? At the end of the word of move or motivation is ion. So any word that has ion contains the electrical field of God, or from this to that. Making sense a little bit? If it's not, keep hanging in there. So to generalize a lot of this stuff, again, this would take hours upon hours to really break down to the smallest molecule, to the smallest quark. But for now, I'm just going to do this on a mental level that just simply goes, okay, we went from that to this, the field. Now, the field becomes conscious in its own right, and that field is a blissful state, if you will, because again, it hasn't created a concentrated form or human form. And so we're going to call this Shambhala. That'll be the simplest word, right? You can repronounce that, spell it in many different ways, and it has been throughout history. It's associated with Buddhism and a few other stuff, but basically Shambhala or Shambhala is just a state of pure consciousness or peacefulness. We'll call it that. When people meditate, they want to reach this field of consciousness, which is calm. And from that field of Shambhala, when that continues to form and formulate, then that ends up creating what we know is the hierarchy, right? And there's that word again, arc. So the hierarchy is a higher arc, right? And this hierarchy, right, this starts forming into our societies as monarchies, oligarchies, and so forth, anarchists, archangels, Ark of the Covenant. You'll hear this throughout history all over the place. And that gives you a clue that it's just moving energy. And anytime energy moves, you can, let's say, interrupt that energy and redirect it if you have the mental awareness of how to do that. And we'll get into that with the cryptos. And that's why crypto is so powerful, where you have the ability, your own sentiency, to take a cryptocurrency, go into it, buy it, and watch it go and increase, right? Because of its usefulness. So anyway, once we go from Shambhala to hierarchy and the archangels and stuff like that, we then go into what I'm calling God. Now this again is the non-anthropomorphic God. It's not animus, it has no figure to it. It is just a pure state of consciousness that came out of the Shambhala and the hierarchy. Now this God then creates 7 consciousnesses, or what we know is the visible light spectrum, red through violet, 1 through 7, notes A through G, any of the 7 frequencies. And so part of the path and the plan of that, when it became this, it created the pathways, right? And those pathways then, as according to its plans, we'll call it, we're labeling it something right now, but it's not what it is, but for conversation's sake, we'll call it that. And so it has a plan and a path. And so when it started creating the 7 consciousnesses, the first one that it sort of started creating was, according to the plan, was the planet, right? Or the planets. And so it created a planet, terra firma. And once it created the planet, it then created what grew on the planet, which was the plants. See, each word has the word plan in it because it's according to that's plan, which is just carving out into the field of pure nothingness into somethingness. Is that making sense? So once we understand that there is a hierarchy or a path or a plan from that, which is pure source, which is pure energy, which is the field, we, with our own electromagnetic frequencies from our brain, then connects to the pure electricity called God. Does that make sense? So God is just pure electricity. And so we're able to then take that electricity, route it, harness it, electrify it, amplify it, and then through that it creates electromagnetism. So basically what we're doing is drawing the law of attraction. It's attracting ions. The word attract, it puts it on a track, a pathway of energy. So ions are just energy. So attraction just literally means there's an energy coming on a track towards you. So whatever it is you're thinking, that's exactly what you're attracting. So if you don't like what you're attracting, then change your transmission, right? So if you don't like what you're receiving, change the way you think. And that's what these classes are about, or these videos are about, to help you understand that there is an order. If you are out of order in your life, then that's exactly what you're thinking, and therefore the electromagnetism is going to attract to you that which is out of order. So by helping you understand this in a very simplified version of order of the esoteric, then we're going to apply that to cryptocurrencies. And because cryptocurrency is what? It's just ones and zeros, right? It is the verse and the adverse. It is the form and the unformed. It is the light, is the dark. However you want to look at whatever binary code uses to produce a pathway. But Bitcoin, you can't touch Bitcoin, right? Just like you can't touch God. You can't touch Shambhala. We can reach on the frequency of it, but you can't physically touch it. But then when it manifests, we are touching it. I know that's a little confusing, but we then are in tuned or in alignment with the higher frequency or the higher arcs from the field from this to that. Making sense? So hopefully that gives you a little more understanding of an order. And so the next video will then go into more specifics, and I will show you and I will give you about my top 12 picks of cryptocurrencies that are in alignment with this order. And if you pay close attention, you'll know exactly what cryptocurrencies, because it's cryptic, if you will, it's esoteric language, and the powers that are making these are part of the old system of esoteric teachings they put it in plain sight, but if you're not aware, you're not going to see it. So we'll go into our next video, and look forward to seeing you there.